The former Nickelodeon star Drake Bell has just decided to be a part of this project called Quiet on Set. It's a 4-part documentary series that is going up later this month, talking about a lot of predators who were allowed to work at Nickelodeon around a bunch of child stars just like him. And he specifically is speaking out about his experiences with a dialogue coach named Brian Peck, who has since been arrested and convicted of those charges against him. At the time, though, this is interesting. He was arrested in August 2003 on more than a dozen charges related to SA allegations involving an unnamed minor. And because this documentary is coming out, a lot of people think that unnamed minor, who remained anonymous at the time, was actually Drake Bell. And finally, at age 37, he's deciding he is comfortable talking about it in the public eye. This says, in May 2004, Brian Peck pled guilty to performing a lewd act with a 14 or 15-year-old and to oral copulation with a minor under 16. It remains unclear who these victims are, and Bell has not yet specified the nature of the abuse he experienced, although he is likely to do so when Quiet on Set airs later this month. Then Brian Peck was sentenced to only 16 months in prison and ordered to register as a sex offender in October 2004. If you guys aren't aware, Drake Bell was on Drake and Josh on Nickelodeon. I know I watched it and loved it. It was like one of my favorite Kino shows for Zoomers. Did you watch it, Sarah?
I did, yeah. It was like one of my favorite shows.
Brett didn't watch it.
Before my time, and I didn't have cable.
It was before your time or after?
Or after
your
my time, and I didn't have cable.
I think it was in like the early 2000s.
Yeah, after my time,
and
I didn't have cable.
Before that, Drake Bell was on All That, their kids version of SNL, basically, like sketch comedy made by kids for kids. A lot of interesting ideas coming out of the mind of Dan Schneider at the time. Some of them not so savory for children, honestly. Shouldn't have been around children. We learned that from Jeanette McCurdy when she put out her memoir last year, right?
Yes.
I'm glad my mom died.
That might have been at the end of 2022. No,
maybe.
It was probably 2023.
Yeah, where she referred to the creator, who was very obviously Dan Schneider, and he had a pattern of predating against her. But this is about Brian Peck, and no one had heard of him. Like, he was relatively unknown until now. I had never heard of this guy, but he was a dialogue coach, an acting coach, basically, for these child stars. Thank you.
I'll refrain from dancing during such serious...
No, I'll dance. I'll dance. I don't care.
Continue.
So there was a teaser clip that showed Drake Bell. It says, Drake Bell will be sharing publicly for the first time the story of the abuse he suffered at the hands of Brian Peck. So that's very unambiguous. And then I wanted to show you guys a trailer for Quiet on Set. It's Quiet on Set, the dark side of kids' TV. It pulls back the curtain on an empire built by Dan Schneider that had an undeniable grip on pop culture. Series such as All That and The Amanda Show, among others, were obsessively consumed by children across the country and defined comedy for a generation. But behind the upbeat on-screen presence on these shows with questionable jokes and over-the-top sketches, Quiet on Set reveals an insidious environment rife with allegations of abuse, sexism, racism, and inappropriate dynamics with its underage stars and crew.
We got a $20 one here from Dreamcast Night. It says, so I wonder how many angry celebrities were caught on Diddy Cam and forced to toe the line by going more and more TDS'd. It's usually the male celebrities that were shocking in their early career. Suddenly they toned police. I mean, I don't know if it's that. I mean, you could absolutely be right, but a lot of times I think what it is like as you age, you mellow. Like I'm not. There's no examples here in front of me, so I can't tell you exactly who you're talking about. But I'm saying that it's not uncommon, like a Howard Stern, to do the shock jock thing when they're in their 20s and their 30s. But as you age, you just mellow out because you're part of the establishment now. You've got your $200 million Sirius XM deal, and you pull the ladder up behind you.
Who are we referring to right now?
He's just saying celebrities that were shocking in their early career and suddenly they tone police. Like, I don't know if he's talking about comedians or rappers. I mean, musicians don't always change.
Yeah, I don't know if that's referring to someone in particular, but let's show the trailer for Quiet on Set.
Here we go, guys.
In the early 90s, Nickelodeon was kid everything. And you better hope that your house had cable.
Wasn't there to educate you. We were there to have fun, to get slimed, to be entertained.
And this is when Dan Schneider arrives, Nickelodeon's golden boy. He created these shows that were hugely successful for them.
No one had ever really done sketch comedy starring kids for kids.
He launched the careers of child actors who became major stars.
For 20 years, he shaped children's entertainment and culture.
Hey, thank you for being here.
But that marked one of the darkest chapters. Working for Dan was like being in an abusive relationship.
Dan's treatment of people on his shows was an open secret.
So my lawyer filed complaints, gender discrimination, hostile work environment, harassment, and it was so devastating.
How safe can any kids be in that environment? There would be even bigger problems down the line with actual pedophiles on set.
These are 3 predators who worked at Nickelodeon, all in a short amount of time.
Wait, guys, we're ready for you.
It was a toxic environment. It made me trust people less.
We were there for so many hours. You get comfortable with people until you're not. I had no idea what I was saving my son from. It was a house of horrors. They find this enormous trove of child pornography. The officer said we found Ziploc bags, each one with a girl's name on it. 11 charges of child sexual abuse related to a child actor.
It made me wonder who was being hurt.
I've been waiting 17 years for today.
It wasn't dealing with anybody on the shows or anything, right?
It was a child actor.
On one of our shows.
Yes.
Have you ever told your story publicly before?
So one of the actresses that was in there is Alexa Nicholas, and she was on Zoe 101 with Jamie Lynn Spears. And I saw her post about her appearance saying, I was never believed as a child when it came to my experience at Nickelodeon with Dan Schneider. Now so many brave individuals are coming forward on the record. Time for healing. Even though it took 17 years to get here, I want this doc to show those who don't believe survivors and harass them are on the wrong side of history. The truth will always prevail. And quite literally, I was pregnant with my baby Truth while filming this. So this is coming out on March 17th. And Alexa Nicholas specifically is like hosted protests outside of the Nickelodeon headquarters and everything, and been very vocal about her experiences at Nickelodeon. More so than others. I think that the bigger stars are not likely to say anything because they have more to lose. By that, I mean like Ariana Grande, Victoria Justice, Josh Peck also. I wonder what he's going to say about this. Also, in case anyone is confused like I was, Brian Peck is not related to Josh Peck. They just happen to have the same last name. It is not the same person. Okay. They are not related. And also, when I Googled Brian Peck, I got even more confused because I saw this headline about another man named Brian Peck who didn't work at Nickelodeon saying, man who dismembered his mother gets 62 years in prison. And that is not the same guy.
Which is worse, though.
But the Nickelodeon Brian Peck walks free.
There's a $20 super chat there from Cobra Commander.
That one lady said it was an open secret, meaning none of us had the integrity to speak up because that would endanger our meal ticket. Most days you can't get women to be quiet, but these ladies kept silent for years. Odd. It definitely is. And I definitely am interested in hearing their own justifications for their silence.
Yeah. My guess is in these documentaries that will be sidestepped.
Especially if it's somebody who isn't a victim themselves. You can't blame the children for not coming forward or speaking out because they didn't know any better. And they probably didn't have any adults who were on their side who would advocate for them if they did. Yeah. But for the adults who were complicit in the whole thing, I really don't feel bad for you and your stupid gender discrimination lawsuit.
I really
don't
what
care.
was shocking to me is like they led with that.
Like
and
that's
then that's what you're
you're
focused on
putting
here?
that on the same level as
the abuse of
pedophiles
children.
working at Nickelodeon. Like that just seems wrong to me to put those on the same level. But somebody in the chat pointed out, doesn't Drake Bell have his own allegations of being a child predator? And that is absolutely true. So a couple of years ago, Drake Bell was sentenced to 2 years of probation on child endangerment charges, felony child endangerment, and also a misdemeanor charge of disseminating matter harmful to juveniles. And this was because he had an inappropriate relationship with a fan of his that he spoke to online. It says the victim, who is 19 in 2021, but was 12 when they met on the internet, she said she spoke at length about the damage that Drake Bell had done to her life, saying that he had began grooming her when she was 12. She said she initially felt loved and protected by him during online chats, and his messages became blatantly sexual after she turned 15. She said his remarks made her feel uncomfortable, but she felt trapped because she idolized Drake Bell. Sounds familiar. She said, I was one of his biggest fans. I would have done anything for him. She said that she and Drake Bell exchanged explicit photos online, and he engaged in sexual conduct with her on several occasions, including at a concert venue in Cleveland and at a hotel. She called him a pedophile and a coward. And also, at the time, he pled guilty to these charges. However, that doesn't mean that he is admitting guilt. That might just mean that he was advised to do so for a lighter sentence, right? And I looked further into this. It's unclear how true those allegations are, even though he was convicted. Someone on Reddit said, this specific case that led to his life falling apart was mostly BS. Not saying I agree with that, but this is what they said. The accuser's aunt, who was with her during the Drake concerts she attended, told the court that the girl was lying about meeting Drake Bell, stating she was with her the whole time. Her narrative was that they hooked up after the show in Cleveland, and it was debunked fully in the courtroom. The part that was true, and where he is an idiot, is that he sent sexually explicit texts to the fan, and that he did it without checking her age first. Really dumb behavior from even a C-list celebrity, and why the guilty plea was the right call in this circumstance. The second she revealed her age, he ghosted her with a creepy HMU when you're older text and ceased contact. That's the whole case. Not defending him being a creep, but the whole dangerous predator shit is untrue. It's sad that he was probably driven to contemplate suicide over this, considering the news that just dropped. So I'm not saying I agree that it was mostly BS. I have no idea, but it sounds like he definitely had an inappropriate relationship with that child. And it doesn't make him super credible when he's making allegations about what happened to him as a child.
So if he ends up in this documentary, are they going to even address those?
I would love to know.
Like, are they going to be willing to address the fact that, like, okay, so as someone who has now been convicted of his own form of abuse, or I guess it's not technically abuse, it's online behavior, right? So it's not considered, sometimes it's not physical abuse, but
it's still a felony.
He has been convicted. Will they address the fact that as someone who was abused, you went on to become an abuser? Because that would be the narrative you'd think that they would carry through on this, or will they just conveniently leave this information out of the documentary?
Yeah, most of the comments about this were like, yes, I feel bad that this happened to him, but I also don't feel bad because it sounds like he went on to do the same thing to another child. And then others responded, you know, this is a common pattern that you see with victims of child abuse, that they end up offending quite often due to the trauma.
It said 30 to 40% go
That's
on
high.
to be abusers.
That's a lot.
Yep.
And you know, obviously that doesn't absolve you of guilt. You know, wrong is wrong, and you should know that as an adult.
Did they ever acknowledge, did she send him the message, or was he just reaching out to random girls on the internet?
I don't know.
Because somebody in the chat said, ladies under 18 need to stop trying to hit up dudes over 18.
She was 12. I mean, obviously she needed her parents to protect her.
I was a little confused because did you say in the court of law they ended up proving that he didn't know how old she was? And once he found out, that's why he said, hit me up when you're older?
Yeah, he found out, but it's like if they started talking when she was 12 and then it became sexual when she was 15, how did you not even get the inkling that this person was not an adult? You know, like I have a feeling that he knew but didn't want to explicitly find out, you know?
Yeah.
That's the creepy part. So it's definitely creepy and sus, and like he should address that in the documentary, but I think it's unlikely that they're going to address it. This is also interesting. So Brian Peck was recently in the news because cast members from Disney's Boy Meets World were talking about working with him and becoming friends with him when they were child actors. They were talking about this on their podcast Pod Meets World. And it was because they brought it up because this documentary reached out to them for comment to see if they would be featured as well. But they instead wanted to speak about it on their own platforms. So this says Brian Peck guest starred on 2 episodes of Boy Meets World in season 5 and became fast friends with Ryder Strong and Will Friedle at the time. I guess they were teenagers, right?
Yeah.
Kind of weird that an adult would be like BFFs with teenagers anyway, but
kids are not but they're not living normal lives.
I know, this is normal for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know that that's odd. So when Brian Peck was accused of SA in 2003, allegedly by Drake Bell, he allegedly called Friedel and was crying while, quote, instantly spinning it to where it wasn't his fault. It was clearly the fault of his victim, who is possibly Drake Bell, quite possibly Drake Bell. Friedel admitted that he believed Brian Peck at first. Quote, my instinct initially was, my friend, this can't be. It's got to be the other person's fault. This story makes complete sense the way that he's saying it. And then Brian Peck requested that these 2 kids support him in the court case back then, which they did. And Will Friedle said, we were sitting in the courtroom on the wrong side of everything. The victim's mother turned and said, look at all the famous people you brought with you, and it doesn't change what you did to my kid. I just sat there wanting to die. It was like, what the hell am I doing here? It was horrifying all the way around. But you still defended the convicted PDF file. It's just like, you're still one of the people that protected him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult because most people are never going to be in that position where they're asked to defend a friend of theirs against such heinous accusations, but
they're kids and they're being asked by an adult that they trust. They're clearly being manipulated, and they were groomed.
Right.
And he probably did that for this reason, in case he ever needed people to testify on his behalf.
He was always nice to me.
Right.
I never saw him do anything. It's always that response. And, that doesn't say anything about someone's true character. It just means they hid it from you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am really interested to see this. I wish that it wasn't 4 episodes. It should just be like one whole project. Yeah. But that's airing on March 17th. I saw someone say 2024 is the year of revelations. And this is because it's like right on the heels of the Diddy lawsuit and everything that's coming out with that. People talking about Michael Jackson and about Justin Bieber and Usher. But I don't know. I hesitate to say something like a strong statement like that. 2024 is the year that we all find out.
No, one person in all of these settings gets sacrificed, and the rest of the evil people are hid from the masses.
Right. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
It's wishful thinking, I think, to say that this year is the year when all of the bad people in Hollywood are going to be found out, and we're going to convict them, at least in public opinion.
It's also one of these things that should shine a light on the way Hollywood works, in these industries with kids, on these kid shows. These things have not gone away. There is still plenty of entertainment that is geared towards kids, which have kids working with adults on a regular basis, and very little has changed in this industry. No matter what people say post Harvey Weinstein, it's not like there's any more accountability than there was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Not really. And what somebody said earlier was saying, why are these kids being allowed to work these long hours with adults? Well, the parents are, I just can't imagine there being parents these days who aren't aware of just how evil, these aspects of Hollywood actually are.
I mean, now it's even worse because there are parents peddling their children as child influencers. Now anyone can be a stage parent with millions of people watching. So if anything, that's only ramped up. It's only become more accessible to be a stage parent.
And there's even less protections in that realm, right? Think of what happened with Ruby Frank. There was still laws in place that don't allow kids to work more than a certain amount of hours a day. They still had to get their education, even if it's,
and they had their money protected.
Yes, exactly. Now the money isn't protected. They can work as many hours as Tiger Mom tells you to record your stupid videos, and that's the evil of it, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.